and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. We're coming to you after a 2-2 draw with Wolves in the third round of the FA Cup at Anfield. Goals from Nunez and Salah weren't enough to seal progress for the holders. Mistakes were abundant, quality was in short supply, and there'll be plenty of questions about the performance in a game where the Reds played their strongest available team and are perhaps fortunate to remain in the competition. I'm Chris Smith, and I'm joined by TLW editor Dave Usher. Dave, this is what we wanted to see. We went into the game excited to see Cody Gakpo's debut, hopeful of bouncing back after the Brentford game, but I spent most of this game feeling pretty pissed off, borderline angry. Is that how you felt?
Frustrated, I'd say, more so than angry. Disheartened as well. I think it's because that's our best team, other than Virgil and, Diaz. We're missing Diaz, but you're putting Gakpo in there, so we're not weakened too much, are we? And so that's more or less our best team that we could put out. And it was Wolves reserves. We recognise quite a lot of their names in the team, but how many of them actually play every week for them? They made loads of changes, and they should have won that game. Not because they were brilliant, but we're just so easy to counter-attack on. It was just ridiculous. Like, every time we lost the ball, you're thinking, oh, fucking hell, now what? They're just going to ball into Traore, they're going to try and run behind us, and a better team would have beaten us easily tonight. I mean, Wolves were not very good, and they still should have won. The disallowed goal, I think we've dodged a bullet there. Nobody seems to have any clear footage as to whether it's offside or not, and I think that's why they couldn't overrule the linesman. I mean, usually the linesmen, they're usually good in those situations, so we probably got it right, but there's no conclusive proof. I think we've dodged a bullet, and I'm saying we've dodged a bullet. We've still got to go and play the replay. Although I think the replay will be easier than tonight, because I think there'll be a little bit more space in behind for us to run into. There wasn't really that many opportunities to do that tonight, and on the odd occasion we did. I mean, the first goal comes from that, but we didn't really get too many chances for Darwin to stretch his legs, and they were defended quite deep, picked us off on the break, and we were just pretty clueless, weren't we, really? We just punctuated with like little moments of brilliance, which gets us by. We'll get a couple of goals. I mean, the second goal's, we'll get onto that later, I'm sure, but to me it's a scandal that's no longer seen as offside. That's offside, but anyway, the first goal, I mean, if you replace Darwin with Sadio in that situation, like, just picture it, it's like Sadio running onto that ball and scoring. You'd think like, that's like classic Liverpool. That's what we did. That type of goal, we did that all the time. Now, we've still got it in us to do it, but it's just sporadic now. These little moments of magic that we've become accustomed to, they're not there as much, and a lot of it's just pedestrian plod and shite, which is so easy to defend against, and, it's hard to watch.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that's going our way, like both of the goals we scored tonight, and if you count the Leicester game as well, like, it's not necessarily stuff that we're doing well. Like, both of our goals tonight came from mistakes, and as you say, it was the second one was a little bit fortuitous, but the first goal was like a terrible pass across the middle that comes to Trent, and fair enough, it's a brilliant ball, and Darwin showed some composure to put it away. He did shin it, but as you said to us in the text, it was the bit of luck that he needed, but it's not necessarily convincing, is it? It's not like we're creating all this stuff for ourselves. It's generally coming from the opposition being a little bit lackadaisical or making mistakes themselves.
Yeah, which is fine, because that's always going to happen. That happened when we were good, and you take advantage of those situations. The problem is, when that's not happening, what are we actually doing? What are we creating? We're not creating much. When we do create much, we tend to miss most of the chances, so that's not great. And then we're just so easy to create chances against. It's just farcical, and I don't know what it is. And anyone who's sitting here saying, "Oh, it's this or it's this," nobody knows. I don't even think Klopp and Linde's know. I don't even think they know exactly what the problem is, because it's not just a case of the midfield shit, they can't run, let's replace them. It's not just that. Obviously, that is a big part of what's going on, but it's not just that. I mean, you could have like the three best midfield players in the world, the most energetic, all-action midfield players in the world, and it's not stopping the first goal tonight. It's not, and the set pieces against Brentford, that's got nothing to do with the midfield either. And I'm not saying this as any kind of like justification for our midfield and saying they're not that bad. I'm just saying it's not. If you think it's just that, you're kidding yourself, because there's just more to it than that. It just doesn't look like anything's working properly at the moment.
No, but in that regard, though, I think it is bigger than that. But on tonight's evidence alone, I think it was the midfield. Like all three of them were shocking. Like all three of the
Yeah.
individual performances were really bad. Like they were slow off the pace. We couldn't get near them in transition. Fabinho, especially, I thought was like just miles away from what we expect from him, and they just couldn't get near that Wolves midfield, and it wasn't necessarily them being bypassed. It was the fact that like they were able to quite easily pass their way around us. It wasn't like Brentford the other night where they'd pick up the ball and they'd knock it forward and all of a sudden we'd be in trouble. I thought Wolves played through us quite well tonight, and not necessarily just because they were able to bypass the midfield. The midfield were a big problem tonight, I thought anyway.
I don't disagree with that. All I'm saying is there is more to it than just that, but that clearly is a big issue. With Fabinho, watching Fabinho tonight, and I was thinking like what I was going to say about him on the pod and that, and I don't think when you watch him, it's like, oh, he's shit. He's like really, he stands out like for, he's slow and all that. It's not so much that. You know what it is? It's just he's not what he used to be. Like it's not you watch him and go, fucking hell, look at the state of that. But when you used to watch him, it was like he stopped everything. Teams were just not getting attacked because he's never been quick, but like he was always in the right place and he was always there getting his foot in, and he'd use the ball well, and he just looked dominant. Never any frills about him. He just did the right thing. He just did a great job, and he's not doing that anymore. He does it like occasionally you still see him like make a little interception, or he'll hold someone off and turn and lay it off, and you go, yeah, that's the Fabinho that we remember. But it was like that constantly. That's all. He was like that all game, every game, and he'd throw in the occasional game where he wasn't like that, and it stood out like a sore thumb. Now those games are pretty much every week, and they're really good games. I mean, when was there a game where you were like, oh, Fabinho absolutely dominated that game? I can't even remember. I can't remember, to be honest. And then you combine that with like Henderson's not at the races at the moment. I didn't think he was good tonight. Thiago is the pick of the three, but he's not good either. His form's nosedived. And then Keita comes on, and there's like you'll get some people going, oh, look at the state of Keita losing the ball, and then others will be saying, look, he's done really well there. And it's a bit of both. And I felt a bit sorry for Keita tonight, because Keita comes on and like the midfield aren't doing anything creatively. And Keita is coming on and he's taking responsibility, like, I'm going to do something. Sure. So that
he raised the energy a bit as well, didn't he?
He raised it massively, and just forward runs and just trying to be positive. But that brings a risk with it. It's not going to work out all the time. There's going to be times when he loses the ball. And that's just, it's not his fault as such. It's like you're taking risks. You're not playing high percentage safe football. You're trying to make things happen. That comes with it, like the high chance that occasionally you're going to lose the ball. And he does lose the ball. And like people are going, oh, okay to this. But like, what's the alternative? He's trying to do something, and that's what we need, because it's all just like too safe. The forwards aren't getting any kind of service. When they are getting service, I'm not particularly thrilled with what I'm seeing from them either. Specifically Mo tonight, he frustrated me a lot when the early pass is on, but he's got to take like 5 touches and then try and beat 3 players and run into traffic. Sometimes play a first time ball. There was one when Darwin's made a run and all he needs to do is just knock it round the corner, and instead he rolls his studs over the ball, he looks up, he checks inside, and then loses the ball. It's like, fucking hell, just play the first time pass. But that stands out because we're not getting that many of those opportunities, and it's vital that you take advantage of them, because we're not creating enough. So I'm getting frustrated at Mo, when really it's one move that he's not really made the most of. But that he's always been like that. This isn't a new thing. Mo's always been like that. The difference is he'd have 10 of them situations in a game, and maybe on 2 of them we'd score from it, and that's what you remember. And you don't remember all the times when he's like sloppily give the ball away because he's made the wrong decision or he's tried to beat too many players. But he's not getting enough of those situations. Like tonight, I'm getting frustrated at Mo, and it's not really fair. It's not. He just didn't really get much service tonight. I thought Darwin was good with like the limited service that he got, and Cody Gakpo was just pretty much neat and tidy. Looks like he's got good technique in that, and some of the link-ups with Robbo look like it might be quite promising down the line, but he was largely just invisible, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we can't draw too much into that at the moment. As
No.
you say, he was neat and tidy. It definitely wasn't a Torres debut. It wasn't a Sadio Mane debut. It wasn't a Stan Collymore debut.
No.
But he did okay. I thought he played it very safe at times.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen him hug the touchline a little bit more. He started off quite wide, and then sort of as the game went on, he was more and more inside. And I felt like he kind of got lost a little bit the more he drifted inside. But as you say, he had some neat little touches. He didn't have a bad game, and obviously this isn't the game to judge him on because he's had like a week training with us, and not everybody hits the ground running like Luis Diaz did, for instance. But that's definitely he's definitely not the issue tonight.
No.
I mean, in terms of what you were saying about Mo, I thought it was quite telling, like how much more dangerous we looked when Ben Doak came on for Mo. Like he brought like a lot more energy and a sort of a lot more a little bit more pace to his game. I thought
Less predictable as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I thought he did really really well, and that was something that came out of the game that was really really promising. I hope we can see more of him in the weeks to come, and I think we will. It'll probably perhaps even start the replay perhaps, but. In terms of the midfield, and this is something I never thought that I'd be saying sort of a month or 6 weeks ago or after the Champions League final, to be honest, but I think Keita has to start the next game.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying he's the answer by any means,
No.
and he might start and he might be dog shit and he might be hooked at half time, but I think you've got to just have a look at him and go, at least he's trying to do something a little bit different, but he's a bit progressive with the ball, he wants to get it forward. Yeah, I'd give him a go and have a look at him. But the problem you've got there is even if he does well, he's going at the end of the season anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like it might help us in the short term, but it's still like it's not good that a player who's surplus to requirements might actually be better than the players that we've got. He might be doing a better job than those who are in there at the moment.
Do you think that's why Jurgen is reluctant to start him at the moment? Because usually, in our experience, any chance he gets to get Keita in the team is normally like he'll like, much to our chagrin sometimes, like he'll come back from injury and he'll go straight into the team. Do you think now that it's the case that because the writing's on the wall, he's definitely leaving, Klopp is reluctant to start him in games?
No, I don't think it's that. I think what it is, the thing with Keita is like defensively, he's a bit of a liability, but he does do certain things well. He's really good winning the ball in the final third. Mm-hmm. But if he doesn't win it in the final third and they bypass it, he's absolutely useless. He gives you nothing, like in terms of running backwards, trying to win the ball back. He's great on the front foot. And Thiago's similar in that sense. Thiago's really good at like nipping in front of people and getting a foot in and that. But once they beat that and they're away, that's where we have problems. We're not catching anybody once they've gone past us, and Keita's not going to help with that whatsoever. But he will help in other areas, like in terms of when he's got the ball, he will try to go past the first man, which creates space then to play the pass instead of just getting it and laying it off. We will try to just be a little bit more adventurous in that. And when it works, it looks good. But when it doesn't, and he loses the ball, it's like, oh shit, now we're in trouble. Because as soon as we lose the ball, immediately you're worried that it's just going to be two passes and that's it. They're in behind us.
But in terms of winning the ball in the final third, perhaps that's kind of what we need a little bit, what he's able to do, because when it goes past that, then those guys who are holding in are completely unreliable now as well. They're so easy to get around. So perhaps like that could be the first line of defence that we need a little bit. Like in a couple of situations, he can do that. And then Fabinho and Hendo and Thiago aren't quite as exposed as they are at the moment. And like, I don't want to harp on about Fabinho because I feel like I've been like mega harsh on him in the last few weeks in the pods I've been on. But do you remember a couple of years ago in the title winning season when you and I went to Burnley away?
Yeah. Right.
And it wasn't like his best game ever, but we were behind the goal, and especially in that first half, it just felt like it stood out to me because he just felt like this magnet that he had sort of a sixth sense, but he was the ball was just attracted. He would always just be there, just wherever the clearance came to, he would be there recycling possession, and we'd be on the move again. And I mean, we're just going over old ground, aren't we?
Well,
He's not doing that anymore.
He was known as the Hoover, wasn't he? Klopp called him
Yeah.
the Hoover. Now he's not the Hoover. He's like the thing that I use, like for me putting green outside. With the it's called a U-bank. Like older people will know what it is. It's a thing got a handle that you push, and it's like got like wheels on the bottom and like a brush that picks stuff up. And it was what people had before Hoovers, but I can't like have a Hoover on like the AstroTurf outside because it's weighed down with sand, so you can't use that. So when I'm getting all the shit off, I'd use this thing called a U-bank, and it takes like 5 times as long as it would as a Hoover. And I think I'm just going to call it Fabinho now. I might just stick a number 3 on it or something, because that's what it is. He's gone from being like the Hoover to just being a U-bank.
Yep. Oh gosh. I mean, should we talk about the first goal then? The Wolves goal. Like, Thiago was a little bit slack. Had to sort of dive in to win the ball back, but that shouldn't be a problem, right? It comes to Alisson, and he's got plenty of time and plenty of options, and he just passes it straight to the Wolves player who puts it in the back of the net. Like, I mean, he, as Jurgen said in his interview after the game, he's been saving our backsides all season, and as you said before we came on air, we'd be in the bottom half if it wasn't for him. That's not even an exaggeration, right? If you look at the amount of chances that we've given up and the amount of saves that he's made.
Did you see that he's made more saves now than he did in the whole of last season? And we only played like 17 games.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Like, gosh. I mean, do you think... I wanted to bring this up anyway. Now seems like a good time, because it doesn't seem like a good idea to dwell on the mistake that he made. We all know that from time to time he can dwell on the ball a little bit too much and get caught. Yeah. This wasn't that. This was just a bad pass, and we got caught out and we were 1-0 down. But I wanted to talk to you anyway about Virgil's injury. Like, did we miss him tonight? And how big a blow is it that he's going to be out seemingly for a while? Because when I heard the news, I must admit that I kind of shrugged my shoulders a little bit, and I was kind of just like, yeah, well, okay, well, perhaps that's not the worst thing in the world. Like, he's not playing well. If the other 2 or 3 can stay fit, then it might be good to sort of have the firing line for a little while. He hasn't been playing well anyway. How do you see that whole situation?
I don't know, to be honest, because it's easy to say, like, oh, we'll miss him. We would miss the Virgil that we know and love. Are we really going to miss the one that we've seen this season? Are we going to miss him that much? I don't know. I don't think he makes a massive difference tonight. Based on games we've seen this season where the same things happened and he's been in the team. The Alisson thing, that's just, it's Alisson's fault. Thiago's actually done well. Yeah, he's lost the ball, but he's done a good job winning it back. Danger's over. So Thiago's part in that can just be completely dismissed for me. Dan was having a go at him in the chat, saying it's like it's as much on him as Alisson and stuff. I'm like, no, it's not. It's like he was sloppy, he lost the ball, but he won it back. Danger's gone. Alisson's got the ball. There's no danger there at all. And then he just plays a bad pass. The only thing I'd say in mitigation for Alisson there, I don't think Trent helped him out. Trent stood behind the player. If Trent, and this maybe comes from Trent, if Trent is centre back in that position, he probably drops to the goal line to make the angle to get the pass. Because, when like goalkeepers are passing it round the 6-yard box from goal kicks and stuff, the 2 centre backs split and they'll always like drop right onto the goal line just to give them that extra room. And Trent stayed where he was, and I think he pointed like where he wanted them to play it. And Alisson should have just cleared the ball. And instead, he tried to play it to Trent, and it wasn't even close to getting to him. The lad didn't even have to stretch for that ball. He just passed it straight to him. It was absolutely brutal. It was a terrible, terrible pass. And that goal is on Alisson. I do think that Klopp will have probably said to Trent, though, you could have helped him out a bit more there by dropping. But the blame is still with Alisson. So I'm not excusing him in any way there. But I just think maybe if Trent drops a couple of yards, it makes it a bit easier. But, you give away a goal like that, and it's like, for fuck's sake, why do we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot with, like, stupid mistakes? Like, think back to the Gomez one, like, was it against Leeds? It was Leeds, wasn't it? Yeah, at the bad back pass. And, we just keep doing these, like, stupid mistakes. And for all whatever people want to talk about, like, the midfield's not doing this or whatever, and it's all true, but you can't be doing that. These are things that we weren't doing when we were good. And we're doing it now, and there's just mistakes creeping in all over the place, and we just look shit. It's just so disheartening. Well, what we look like now. If you think like the 30-year drought that we had, in those 30 seasons, we probably only had maybe 2, maybe 3 seasons where we were absolutely shit. We were terrible, and you're like, look, this is bad. This needs.
But those seasons were generally the last season of a manager's reign.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's where we're at now. That's not my point. The point I'm making is we had a few seasons where we were awful, and you knew, like, the last season of Julia, last season of Rafa, the Hodgson thing, like, we were terrible in those seasons. So dismiss them. And then we had, like, probably maybe 3 seasons where we were really good and put in a title challenge. Dismiss them as well. What we're seeing now is what we've seen in all of them others. Like, we're capable of beating the best team, which we beat City at Anfield, don't forget, and we'll lose to shite, like teams like who get relegated. If you go back and over the years, the amount of relegated teams that we lost to when we were in, like, that spell where we were just finishing like 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever, we would always lose to relegated teams. And then you look at us this year and we got beat by Forest and Leeds. Now, Forest and Leeds might both stay up, and hopefully they do, because that means it's 2 less places to worry about with Everton. So all those teams at the bottom, I'm rooting for them all. Just every one of them, let them all finish above Everton. That'll do me. And then I don't care who the other 2 spots go to. But the point that I'm making is we're now that team that we were for most of those 30 years, where, like, we'll win a few games and then we'll have, like, just a proper stinker where we lose, and you don't know what to expect anymore. There's no consistency, and we're in a bad run at the moment. It's like every game that we've played since the Villa game was okay, decent in parts, but since we've come back from the break, we've not looked good, and we'll get out of that. We'll have a few good performances, a couple of big wins, and then we'll lose to someone where it's just not expected. That's who we are now, and the question is, can we get out of that and get back to what we have been over, like, the last 4 or 5 years, not counting the COVID season?
Yeah. I honestly don't think that's plausible at the moment, getting back to where we were, because where we were is the best that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And if you look at this now, it's not realistic to think that that's something that we can get back to.
Not with this squad.
Can we be decent again? Can we recover some form? Can we get more solid? Can we cut out the mistakes? Can we make tactical adjustments to negate the ease of playing against us? Absolutely. But in terms of, like, getting 90 points, no chance. Not with this team.
Absolutely.
So and that's something that we all have to come to terms with as well, because I feel like there's nothing worse than being on the downslide, right? If you're on the other side of that hill and you know that it's going in the wrong direction, I feel like I'd much rather be in, like, Manchester United's position than us at the moment, in terms of they're definitely on an upswing. Like, I think we have better players than them. I think we have a better manager than them. I think we have a better overall system, club than them. But for them at the moment, there'll be a sense that things are on the upswing, and that's always enjoyable. Like,
there's Arsenal as well, who are like way beyond United, but it's the same thing with them. They've got a young team, they're on the up. If they don't win the league this season, there's no reason for them to think this was our chance. They'll just think we'll get better next year. We were like that. We know how that feels. That's not there now. We're not we're not on the up. We're on like the slide, and the slide's got to be addressed. And I just don't know how you do it. It's going to take, like, a lot of money. I don't know if the money's there to do it. I don't know. Like, I had this conversation on the last part. I think it was with Jules, and I was saying, like, when people are saying Klopp's too loyal to players or whatever, it's an easy thing to say, and I'm not even saying it's not true. But who are the players who were identifying and say, well, he's got to go, he's got to go, he's got to go? It's not that. It's easy to say now, the midfield, but is it just that? Do they have to make decisions on other players as well? I just don't know. I wouldn't want to be making those decisions. I know that much. And maybe that's part of why Michael Edwards got off and Julian Ward's, like, slinging his hook at the end of the season as well. They may have looked at it and gone, this is going to need some work. Not sure the finances are there to do it. And maybe they've just seen, like, the writing on the wall and thought, nah, not for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to, like, they've sealed their reputations by helping us build this team that we've been so successful with.
Especially Michael Edwards, yeah. He's gone out on a high, hasn't he, before? Because it got to a point where most of the deals he was having to do now were, like, contract renewals for players who he'd signed and he didn't really want to be given, like, the big money to. But they get to a point where like Klopp's like, no, I want to keep my squad together, and Michael Edwards is like, Henderson's a good example. Edwards, by all accounts, did not want to give Henderson the contract that he got, and Klopp insisted on it because we just lost Genie, and he's like, not losing both of them, you just get that deal done. And that's where like there's going to be like problems where Klopp's going to want certain things, and the data might not back up what Klopp wants to do, and who knows, there's conflict there maybe with Ward in terms of what they want to do next summer, and who knows what's going on, but clearly it's not a particularly happy ship, behind the scenes.
Yeah, and it has been, hasn't it? That's been sort of like underpinning our success for the longest time, the fact that we've felt that it is being so well run. There is harmony between the behind the scenes team, the data scientists, the medical team, the manager, the coaching staff, and the guys in Boston as well. It's felt like, we've been the envy of the league in terms of how well run we are, and now it does feel like, okay, well, all the medical staff are pissed off. The two most influential behind the scenes guys in terms of signing players are both, one's gone, the other one's going at the end of the season. There is massive speculation about the ownership, whether they're still going to be in charge, whether they're going to sell some of the club, whether they're looking to sell all of the club. We've got an old squad that looks tired and definitely looks like its best days are behind it, that needs massive work, big investment, and I don't want to say a complete rebuild, but there definitely needs to be that second sort of, maybe third go. We almost need to start, not start over again, but get to a point where we're building and looking like we're on the up again. There's a lot of turmoil, I think, and it just doesn't really bode well. Nothing feels good. It just feels like like a little bit. It just feels a little bit iffy, a little bit off.
It does, but we are actually in a rebuild now because You kind of lose sight of that a little bit when it's just dribs and drabs, like one signing in one window and then the next window comes and we sign someone else. But if you look at what we've done over the last couple of years, you get Jota coming in, Kanate, and then Darwin and Gakpo now. So you've got these players coming in to replace the old guard. So the team in 12 months' time is probably going to look a lot different to the team that nearly won everything last year. There's probably going to be like half the team's going to be different.
Mm-hmm. You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary, and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook. Are you confident that if the regeneration does happen and the players that we've already signed are supplemented by others, are you confident that we can go again and under this leadership can sort of be challenging for the title again within a year or two?
It depends what other teams do. I don't think we're going to like scale the heights that we did with like the 97 points and how many did we get when we won the league? 99, wasn't it? So we had like a 97 point season, a 99 point season. We got 90 odd last year as well, didn't we? Not sure that we'll get to that level again. Might not need to get to that level if City drop off, which, so far this season, they have dropped off a bit. I think everyone's been focusing on the amount of goals that Haaland's been scoring, and it's kind of masked that their team's not being quite what it has been. Now, they could just reel off 15, 16, 17 wins on a bounce. We've seen them do it before. They might do it again.
They probably will.
They might, but if they don't, if winning the title is 88, 89, 90 points, maybe we could get back to that level in the next year or two, but hard to see it getting as good as it was. I think I was saying, enjoy this while it lasts. I hoped it'd last a little bit longer than it did. But I think those are the years that we're going to look back on. And, that's the best team I've ever seen. And we've dropped off from that. And that was always going to happen. And I thought I'd be okay with that, but I'm not. And I think the reason why I'm not is because it's happened so fast. We've just plummeted. We haven't had a gradual decline. We've just gone from like almost winning everything to just looking like the team of the 90s.
Yeah. I feel like that's happened quite a lot of times to us, though. Like when we thought we were going to kick on under Houllier, after the season where we almost ran Arsenal down, and then it just kind of dropped off. Like the last sort of Rafa season after we pushed United really close, went that way as well. After we almost won the league with Rodgers, it does tend to happen really quickly. We feel like we're on top of the world, and then all of a sudden it slips away.
There were
like
more
you said
obvious
there,
reasons, though, weren't there, for them?
Yeah.
You could see, like, it was easy to see why that happened. I don't think it's as easy to see with this. I mean, the Rodgers team just caught lightning in a bottle that season.
Right.
We almost did it. Then Suarez leaves. There's a massive hangover. You've lost your best player. Stevie's virtually on his last legs. So they were always going to fall off a cliff. Rafa got close, and then it's signings and like other stuff went on, like playing politics and the Alonso getting replaced by Aquilani. You look things like that, and you're like, yeah, that's where it started to go wrong, and you can see why. Obviously, Julia had the health issues, and then he signs like Diouf instead of Anelka, and that it was going great up until the summer when like we made those three signings, Diouf, Diao, and Sheru, and then that was the beginning of the end. That's where it just went. So you can see why, like, we did fall off a cliff like those times. This one, it's like, it wasn't supposed to be like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, you mentioned that, and you did say this a lot in your match reports and stuff, that we need to enjoy this while it lasted. Do you feel like you did? Because I feel like once we reached the summit, and this is true in all walks of life, once we reached the summit, I was less about enjoying it, and I was more worried about like it going away. I felt like I was more I felt threatened by the fact that this wasn't always going to be the case. And I know like last year when we were doing the pod, almost every week we were coming on and we were just having an absolute blast. Yeah. So maybe that's not true, but I do feel like I was more worried about the fact that this wasn't going to be the case than I was focused on enjoying it. And I think that's probably not the case for you.
No, I didn't. I wasn't worried about it's not going to last. It wasn't a case of that. I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have done, but that's completely down to the fact I felt like we were not getting what we deserved, because you're up against a team that's just completely disregarding all the rules and nobody's talking about it, and it's like, Pep and City, aren't they great? I'm like, yeah, but let's look at why they're great. We're doing things the right way, playing by the rules, and they're paying people off the books, making up blag sponsors that don't even exist just to fucking pump millions into the club. So that I couldn't enjoy it because of that, because I just felt cheated. So it wasn't about. I enjoyed our games. I enjoyed going to the match and watching this team. I enjoyed every minute of that. But I didn't get the full enjoyment out of it because I felt like we weren't getting what this team deserved. But I wasn't worried about this is going to come to an end and stressing out over that, because I didn't think it'd go as fast as it has.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. We've got a little bit off track. Should we sort of get back to the game for a little while? We're 1-0 down. At that point, I felt like the crowd were getting slightly edgy. I was certainly getting edgy watching at home, quite angry and shouting at the TV and stuff. And it got to half time. We had the lifeline really. It was a poor crossfield ball from Collins. We've seen plenty of that from our own players in the last couple of weeks. Trent ran onto it, and just an unbelievable ball into like the slightest look up, and an unbelievable inch perfect pass into his path. And I mean, like the commentators and everybody and the analysts were talking about it being a great finish. I don't think he meant to hit it with his shin, but it was a composed finish. He took it well, and it's great to see one finally go in for him.
Yeah, I'll go to the finish first. He obviously doesn't mean to hit it with his shin, but where I'll give him credit is he was just trying to guide it across goal. Mm-hmm. He wasn't lashing at it or anything. He was just trying to guide it. And it's sort of come off like his calf, hasn't it? Like the side of his shin, his calf. But because he was trying to just guide it, a controlled finish, I give him credit for that. I think he's took it well. But that is the bit of luck that he's not had. How many times have we seen him absolutely fucking leather the ball, catch it as sweet as you can possibly catch it, and then it's like the keeper's tipped it over or he's at the bar or something like that. So he's had very, very little luck all season. So it's about time something went his way. But the pass from Trent, like people will say, "Oh, that's a brilliant ball," but it's like I don't think like you can do it justice. I don't think you can, no matter what you say about it, I don't think it justifies how incredible that actually is, because he's running full speed. He's absolutely sprinting. It's not like he sprints and then he slows up and he looks and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to pick out a pass." He's running full speed, as you say, just as a little look up. Darwin's got his hand in the air calling for it, so he obviously sees that. And then he delivers a ball that's like so perfect. Darwin doesn't break stride at all. He just carries on sprinting onto the ball and finishes. He doesn't have to adjust himself or anything because the ball lands exactly in stride. To be able to do that, any player might be able to do that, and it would be lucky. It's quite possible that any professional footballer could deliver a ball like that, but it would be totally lucky and he could never do it again as long as he lived. Trent does that like on a weekly basis. So Trent does that, and that's not lucky. That's something that Trent just does all the time. And it's so taken for granted, I think, and it's only natural that you take it for granted because you just run out of things to say. You're seeing it that often and you go, "Oh, it's a great ball from Trent, that wasn't it?" It's like, hang on, let's just go back a minute. It's way more than that. It's unbelievable what he did there. And, I made up Darwin's got his goal. I thought Trent was our best player all game, to be fair. I thought he played well. He defended all right, and I thought he was like really good on the ball. But not many of the others played well. I thought Darwin was okay when he had the ball. I thought Robbo was all right. And other than that, I'm struggling. It wasn't good.
Too.
The first half, we started, the first 10 minutes I thought was really good because we were flying about. The intensity was there. We were flying around and they were panicking. They were just kicking the ball out of play. They couldn't string two passes together. They looked like they were rocking. And then the tempo just dropped. We couldn't keep it up. And that's the problem that we see now. We've still got it in us to put these little 10-minute spells where it's like it's all high tempo, high energy, and we look like ourselves. We can't sustain it. So it might be like 10 minutes at the start of the game. Usually isn't, because we're usually one down in the first 10 minutes. But we'll have like a spell, like there'll be 10 minutes where you're like, okay, we're getting on top of you. Like against Brentford, it was 10 minutes at the start of the second half. It doesn't last. We can't keep it up. Now, you can't do that for 90 minutes, and we've never really been able to do that for 90 minutes, but we'd maybe do it for 70. We're doing like 10 minutes here and then maybe 10 minutes in the second half. The intensity just is not there anymore, and that's the difference, because you could see the first 10 minutes, Wolves they were all at sea. They were really panicking and didn't know how to deal with it. And then as soon as the tempo drops, and then Wolves are able to just like win the ball, and then it's like, okay, bump, bump, bump. Oh, all of a sudden, we're in on goal here, or we're getting down the sides, getting crosses in, and that's where it changes, is when that intensity drops, and we just can't sustain it anymore. And that's clearly, it's a big problem. And maybe it is just the midfield, but I think it's more than that. I think it's just the whole team just does not press the way they did. Now, maybe that's because unless you're all doing it, it's like either one goes or none. Either all go or none go, because if one goes and two stay back, they're just going to play through it, and we just don't seem to be able to sustain any kind of like intensity or like a press at all. It's only in flashes now, whereas it used to be for the majority of the game. And like the first half's a really good example of that. We started really well and then just fizzled out.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable, isn't it? Like we've been saying for years on and off that the intensity of the football we play with the same personnel is possibly unsustainable, and we've been talking for 2 or 3 years about whether this might become an issue and whether the chickens might come home to roost on that. I'm not sure whether that's the case. We always say this with I'm definitely not tactically astute enough to know that's the problem, or what the root of it is, whether it's like the fact that people aren't being triggered at the right time, or whether they just don't have the legs anymore. I just don't know, but that's, as you'd say, it's above the pay grade. But we did go in at half-time, one apiece, fortunately, I thought. And then we got the lead in the second half, quite fortunately as well. It's another goal that's not necessarily of our own doing. Gakpo's best moment of the night, though, cutting inside and playing that nice little ball over the top. Mo's offside. The defender has to make a play on the ball because he knows Mo's behind him. But because of the new rule, Mo's onside, he takes it down well and just slots it past the keeper. Ridiculous, really, because as far as I'm concerned, that's that.
Yeah, I hate that that's not offside. I know we've benefited from it, but I'm just talking about the rule in general. I can't believe that that's not seen as being offside. The only reason the defender plays the ball is because he knows Mo's behind him. He doesn't know if Mo's offside or not because he's not got eyes in the back of his head. He's not looking at the line the way a linesman would be. You know, the defender's doing his job. He knows that Mo's behind him. He can't be sure that he's offside. Even if he thinks he's offside, you can't take the risk of just saying, I'm not going to head this, I'm just going to leave it, and if he scores, he's offside, it's not going to count. You can't do that. You've got to do your job. And then if the player's offside, he's gained an advantage. Mo's gained an advantage by being 2 yards offside there. And he's not offside when the defender heads it, but the defender's only heading it because it's a forward pass aimed at Mo, and he's trying to cut it out. I can't believe that. Like, people have sat in a room and said, you know what we need to do with offside? We need to, if the defender touches it, doesn't matter if you're 10 yards offside, you're not classed as offside anymore. It's stupid. It's absolutely fucking stupid. I've never liked that rule. The first time I remember it, like seeing it and thinking, what's going on here, was when we played Tottenham at Anfield. And Lovren's like deflected a pass that's gone through to Kane, and Kane's offside, and they let it go. And I think they got a penalty from it. And I'm like, it's morally just wrong. He's offside. He's gaining advantage through being offside. And you're saying, like, because it's touched the defender, he's no longer offside. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And
imagine if the defender just leaves that and it comes through to Mo, and it's a really tight call, and it turns out that Mo's actually onside.
Exactly,
like,
it's not.
He
fair.
Can't leave it, can he? No,
you can't defend properly anymore. What are you supposed to do? You're meant to just like not bother holding the line and just always go with runners all the time now, or just not try to cut out any through balls if you think someone's offside. It's stupid. Absolutely, you hate that rule. Whoever came up with that rule should be given a season ticket at Everton and be forced to watch them every week, because it's disgraceful. It really is. It pisses me right off. And if they wanted to change offside, the only thing that needs changing about offside is when a player is coming back from an offside position and he picks the ball up and he's onside when he picks it up. He shouldn't be offside then. He's not gaining an advantage from it. So, like, there was Brighton's goal against Arsenal last week that got disallowed, where the lad, he comes backwards, but he's offside. He comes back to pick the ball up. When he picks the ball up, he's got like probably 6 players between him and the goal. He's gained no advantage from the fact he was initially offside, and that doesn't stand. Rightly so, because that's the rule. But if they were making changes, that's what they should be changing, not this other bullshit that they've done. And like, we've benefited from that, but it still pissed me off.
Yeah.
I look at that and I thought, that's just morally wrong. That's not a goal. Now, having said that, really good finish. The way he took it was superb. Very calm finish. But yeah, I don't like that that's now seen as a goal. It's not right.
So you'd hope from that point on, having got our noses in front against a much weakened Wolves side, who, I don't know if they made that bunch of substitutions. No, I think we'd scored before they made the bunch of substitutions. But even like a couple of minutes after the goal, like the Ait Nouri kid, I think he played like left midfield today. I thought he was fucking really good. Yeah, and I think we should probably, John Brennan mentioned him to me a few weeks ago. He's obviously had his eye on him because he's French, and said that he really likes him. But I hadn't noticed him until he scored against Everton the other week. And he was excellent tonight. Like, I know we'd like signing players from Wolves and stuff, so maybe we could have a look at him in the future. But he's clean through on goal, and he could have taken a touch perhaps, but hit it first time, sort of like Darwin did the other week in that game. And Alisson makes the save, and then we didn't heed the warning, and we're 2-1 down with the goal that we've already discussed, the one that sort of Hwang goes for the ball with Konate, comes off Konate and ends up going past Alisson, and there's 25 minutes to go left in the game at this point, and you're just kind of wondering where it's going to go from here. Like, I didn't really have any sense of whether we would be able to bounce back, whether we were going to go on to lose the game from there, and it turns out that we almost did lose the game. They had the really tight call for offside. We mentioned this earlier. I think it was because we did come on air, but like, I'm a little bit peeved by the outrage of the fact that there wasn't conclusive VAR evidence to say whether it was onside or offside. So you're just talking about the history of football slightly before VAR then, right? Like, the linesman said it was offside, and it's offside. Like, I don't necessarily think that that's the huge controversy that everybody's making it to be, just because we don't have conclusive video proof that it was offside.
I think the controversy is that there should be. I mean, if you've got that technology there, how are you not picking up on that? That's baffling to me. We've suffered from that ourselves, though, haven't we? What was the game fairly recently? And there was like it was Tottenham, I think. We were playing Tottenham, and the cameras didn't pick it up. And they said, well, we've got no VAR on that, we can't do nothing about it. And you think, well, how are you not picking it up? But I've no idea whether it was offside or not, and I've not seen any footage of it. Now, there should be a camera on the other side of the ground which picks that up, but the cameras from the near side where he was, none of them seem to have picked him up. I'm saying cameras, I mean TV cameras. I mean, you'd think that VAR must have access to better footage than the TV have, because they've got cameras everywhere. But I don't know if he's offside or not. The only thing I'd say is linesmen are usually pretty good with those. Right. And he's put his flag up. Now, they don't normally put the flag up unless they're pretty sure, because otherwise they'll just let VAR deal with it, won't they? So, but it took ages, didn't it? And when it takes ages, then that's when you start thinking, what's going on here? It must be really tight. And as it turned out, it wasn't particularly tight. They just didn't have any fucking cameras on them. So they went, oh well, we just have to go with what the liner said then. I'd be really pissed off if that was us. Got to be honest, I would. I'd be pissed off. It's like, well, if you're bringing in the technology, at least have it that it's doing its job. And it wasn't doing the job if the camera's not picked up the lad, whether he's offside or not. And the ITV did not have a clue, because they're showing replays of it, and you're looking and there's no offside anywhere. What's going on here? And they never said it was like the corner taker got caught. Right. They were showing all these other incidents, well, there's no offside there, and there's no offside there. What the fuck's going on? Just completely baffling. But we've dodged the bullet there.
Shouldn't be. ITV shouldn't be allowed to have football, man. God. When I saw the game was on ITV today, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. You've got that Pugac asshole talking absolute bollocks in the studio the whole time. Emil Heskey, I mean, say what you want about Emil. He's not an engaging TV personality, is he? I know your beef with him goes back 20-odd years. But, yeah, he's not necessarily the first name I think of when you're trying to get somebody to cover the game for you. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think Wolves can kind of feel hard done by. I didn't think the ref gave them anything tonight. I think we got the majority of the decisions. They could legitimately walk away from this game thinking that, if you think about that, whether it was onside or offside, there's no conclusive proof, whatever. The Mo goal, the decision there, it's right by the letter of the law. Morally speaking, it's not right. Yeah. And the fact that the referee gave them absolutely nothing for the entire night, they have every right to be pissed off, I think.
Yeah, it's it wasn't any major decisions, but it was just free kicks. They'd be appealing for the free kick, and he'd wave play on, and you think, normally that'd be given. Right. But you tend to not see replays of those anyway, so you don't know if he's got it right or not. You're just basing it on your initial view, where you think that's normally a free kick, and he's not giving it. There was one just after the disallowed goal as well, and he gave a free kick. They wanted a foul on the edge of our box, and he waved it away. And then there was a little bit of contact, as the players coming back to try and win the ball back, and he gave us the free kick for it. He actually should have played the advantage, because we were away, and he brought it back for a free kick to us. But their fans are doing a nut, because they thought they should have had a free kick, and then he just gives a soft one for about 2 seconds later. So yeah, I can see why they'd be hard done by, but fuck Wolves. The fans with the banter merchant with singing the national anthem in England and all that. They're just along with Villa, they're just the worst kind of banter merchant.
When's the replay? Do you know? Do we know?
I don't know,
but
it would have made sense to do it this week. I know it's not, but
yeah,
we've got a free week, and I think Wolves are out the cup, aren't they? So out the League Cup, so they'd have a free week as well, I think. So it would have made sense to do it maybe this Wednesday or something, but no, I think it might be the week after. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, not the most positive.
We won't have any injured players back for it, will we? The injuries are not coming back anytime soon.
What's going on with Bobby, man?
Well, that's weird, because unless I dreamt this, and it is possible that I dreamt this, but I'm sure I read quotes from him where he said he spoke to TalkSport or something, which this is where I'm thinking it might be a dream, because why would Bobby be talking to TalkSport? But I seen a report, and it said Firmino told TalkSport that I think he was talking about Pele. That's why he must have been on. He must have been talking about Pele. That would make sense. And he was obviously asked about his fitness, and he said, back in training, I won't be right for the next game, which was Leicester. He said, but the one after that I'll play, which was Brentford, the following Monday. And he's still not even in training, so I don't know what's going on. But when that happened, and Klopp said, not serious, he'll miss 1 or 2 games. I actually said on here, didn't I, so we can rule him out for a month. Because that's right. Always like that. It's whenever you've got someone and he's supposed to be... Even with Virgil, when Virgil went off and he said it's nothing, he's felt something, but we're not worried. And then a couple of days later, he's going to be out for weeks. It's it just seems to happen all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's either they don't know or they just want to break it to us in stages rather than just give us the bad news straight away and go, look, he's out for 2 months. It's it's not too bad. Oh, it's a bit worse than we first thought. And then it's it's going to be 8 weeks. So, I don't know what's going on with Bobby. And then there's also been talk that he's supposed to be going to the team that Ronaldo's just signed for as well. They're supposed to be in for him. So, who knows? I don't think I don't think we'd let him go in January anyway.
No.
But, I don't know. We'll see, I suppose.
I don't think a devout man of God would be like Bobby would be up for that, to be honest. But we could use him at the moment. He was a bright spark for us in the first half of the season. You know what I mean? He was in his best form for a couple of years, and he was looking really good, and he was scoring goals, and his finishing was great, and he was looking closer to his old self again. It's just a fucking bummer, man. It's just these constant little blows. It's fuck's sake, why can't we catch a break?
I know. And it would help as well with, if Bobby's giving you the option to play 9, then you can put Darwin out on the left for a bit and just switch things around a bit. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I'm happy with Darwin in the middle, but I have liked what I've seen from him on the left as well. So it would be nice to have the rotation option there and the ability to just change things in games. I mean, what did you make of the subs today? That with 5 minutes to go and he made those changes, because it was pretty big calls, taking off Trent and Mo. Gakpo going off was I'm surprised he was on as long as he was.
I was as well.
New signings tend to get 70 minutes or something, don't they? So that was a bit of a surprise. But, the game's still in the balance. You don't have to worry about extra time. It's there's only 5 minutes left. And he brings on Harvey and Ben... No, Harvey was on earlier, wasn't he?
Not much earlier, though.
Yes, it was Joe Gomez, Ben Doak and Ox coming on. And I thought, that's a big call, making those changes. I actually think, we did pretty well when those changes were made. I thought Joe Gomez was really positive, getting himself forward, getting involved. Doak was lively. Ox was won't really say too much about that. Ox was Ox, just didn't really do anything.
From my perspective, I just think that he must have felt that was going to give us the opportunity to switch things up a bit and win the game, because I know that he would much rather have won the game tonight than... It wasn't just a case of getting these players off because they played 85 minutes. He would much rather win this game tonight and get it over and done with than have to play the replay.
That's what I mean though. It's it's a pretty big call. You're trying to win the game when you're taking off Trent and Mo. It was a little bit surprising to me, but as I say, it turned out okay. I thought the right hand side was quite dangerous for us. That's where most of our attacks were coming from late on. I thought Harvey did all right as well. He got involved on the right. We did some nice little moves down there. It would have been nice if Doak could have just bent that one in with the outside of his foot, though, wouldn't he?
Yeah, just a little more. Just he needed a little bit more bend on it. But he's definitely got something, hasn't he?
Wasn't he? But definitely. I mean, I tell you what, I thought was quite surprising. Watching him when he come on today, it was whenever he received the ball, he was using his left foot all the time when he was dribbling. Now he's right-footed and he normally goes on the outside, but most of his touches he was using his left foot, and you don't normally see that. So I don't know whether that's maybe if he's doing that, it fools the other team into thinking, he's left-footed, he might be cutting in there, and then he just goes on the outside on his right foot, or he's just really two-footed, which would be nice if he's a Luis Garcia type. where he's just completely two-footed. I mean, Luis Garcia used to just take corners with either foot, and like that always, I'm so impressed when I see that. Ryan Kent was always like that as well at the academy. I remember just being blown away watching Ryan Kent taking corners from either side, and he'd just go like left foot on one side in swinger, then he'd go the other side, right foot in swinger, and it was just on the money every time, because there's just not many players are capable of doing that with both feet.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty cool to think that he only turned 17, like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So definitely want to see more than him, and that could end up being one of the bright sparks of the season if we do end up seeing more than him, and he contributes in the way that he has in the game so far. It's a bit of a shame that we were drawn against City earlier in the League Cup, and it'll be quite nice if we can get through this replay, because it gives us an opportunity to get more looks at him.
Yeah.
And
get a lower league team, get through and get a lower league team, and then Bajcetic can play, Bendo can play, with just like a sprinkling of like senior players as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think we'll get through though? Are you backing us to win the replay?
No, because I'm not really backing us to beat anybody at the moment. I don't feel confident going into any of the games, and especially I don't feel confident going into Brighton next weekend.
I don't feel confident about Brighton, but I do think that we'll win the replay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brighton, so. I mean, Brighton worries me massively, because they just look a really good side anytime I watch them.
Yeah,
they've given us loads of problems as well, haven't they?
Always. I mean, tonight we conceded 4 attempts, but Wolves had the ball in the net 3 times, and they had the ball in the net 3 times all season before tonight. Like barely, they just can't score, can they? And they found it quite easy against us tonight. Scored 3, had the ball in the net 3 times, could have had more. But should we talk about Brighton for a few minutes before we go off? Because I feel like, are you looking at that game and thinking, just don't lose?
Yeah, I think so. I'm expecting us to lose, to be honest. Mm-hmm. We always have trouble against them anyway. They're a good side, and they're like kryptonite to us. Just the way they play, whatever it is they do, we struggle to deal with that. And I watched them against Arsenal, and the spells in that game, Arsenal looked brilliant, and like depressingly so. I was watching them going, fucking hell, this just reminds me of us a few years ago. But it wasn't like that for the whole game, and Brighton had like spells in that game where they were on top and playing great football, creating chances, and it wasn't a one-sided game. Even though Arsenal looked like they were running away with it, Brighton really gave a good account of themselves, and the goal that gets disallowed, which would have got it back to 4-3 with like a couple of minutes plus stoppage time. I think if that had stood, I think they'd have equalised, because they just had Arsenal completely on the ropes, and they're just so impressive to watch, because there's no like particular great player when you watch them. It's not like say if you watch Spurs, it's all about Harry Kane. You're like, oh, he's amazing. Brighton have just got like a really good team. They just play, a style of football that's like easy on the eye, and it's effective, and the only thing that's been lacking with them is like they just don't convert enough chances compared to the ones they create. But they've been scoring pretty regularly this season.
They scored 5 today.
Did they? Yeah. Who were they playing today?
They beat Middlesbrough 5-1.
Middlesbrough's been doing well as well.
Yeah. So there's not that much difference between the Wolves team and the Middlesbrough team in terms of like being very at the bottom end of the Premier League and in the playoffs and the Championship. So it's not, unless I don't know if Middlesbrough didn't put out their full team or whatever, but they won 5-1 at Middlesbrough. McAllister scored 2. Adam Lallana scored. So if they're solving that problem and they're putting the ball in the net, then they're a much bigger threat to us than they
put 4
already
past
have
Everton
been
as well.
Right.
Ably assisted by Everton in some cases. I mean, that 4th goal, honestly, in all my years watching football, I've never seen a back pass as bad as that. You would swear he's done it deliberately. It's so bad. It's like, how's that even possible to underhit a back pass by that much? And not even just underhit it, but like the angle that he played it as well. It was utterly bizarre. But that's one of the funniest goals I've seen in ages, because like the back pass is just unbelievable. And then as the lad runs through, Pickford comes out and takes out Tarkowski as they're trying to deal with it. It's just a comedy of errors. But I put that game on at 4-0. I wasn't watching it, and like I heard it was 4-0. I was like, oh fucking hell, I've got to find a stream and stick this on, just because I wanted to see the crowd reaction. But like what was left of them, I mean, loads of them had got off at that point. So I watched like the last 20 minutes of it, and they didn't score again, but they just looked like totally in control, really impressive, know what they're doing, they move the ball around well, well organised, and I thought they might have had a drop-off after Graham Potter left, because I thought he was doing a brilliant job there, but the new fella's done well for them, so it's going to be a tough game for us. The way we're playing, there's no reason to think that we'll go there and win, but it goes back to what I was saying before about like all those years when we were just like finishing like 5th, 6th, 4th, whatever. We would have these games where like we'll go there and play really well, and you know, so we are capable of going there and winning quite convincingly. I'm not saying that we will, and I do fear the worst. But if like we could just have a game where like every shot Darwin hits flies in, you know, Mo could be clinical and we could hit them on the break. I think a lot of it with us now, so we've got to get in front, because we're pretty good when we're in the lead. I mean, we've blown a lead today when we got to 2-1. But that's what we've got to get in that situation where we're ahead, and then we can counter-attack a bit and use the pace on the break. Too often we're having to chase games where teams are sitting back in against us, and we just haven't got the guile to break them down anymore. It's like all we've really got is like get it to Trent and hope that he picks somebody out. You know, that's our only real creative outlet at the moment. It's like, maybe Trent will put a brilliant ball in and we'll score from it. Whereas if you get in front and you can counter-attack a bit, I think that'll suit us. But the problem with that is you've actually got to get in front, and we're not doing it enough.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Villa was the prime example of that, right? Like, that's the game that we got in front against them, and then we're 2-0 up, and then we're able to pick them off on the break and everything, and we end up getting the third goal from that, and it ends up looking like a lot more convincing win than it actually was on the balance of play. So, I mean, I think you're right. I think that's the key, and hopefully we can do that and then use that as a springboard. Next Saturday, a rare Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff, no game in the week, which is nice. I mean, in terms of the team, there's not really much you can say, really. It's just like who's standing, who's able to play. We're not going to be able to make that many changes. We've already talked about maybe bringing Cater in. I'm not sure whether Costas plays instead of Robbo.
I thought
probably
Robbo
not
was
with the
all
week
right
break.
today,
Yeah, I did too. I was worried about whether he was going to play because of the. I mean, he looked like he got hurt. Was it the other night that he came off? No, it wasn't. It was against Leicester that he went off. It looked like he was hurt, wasn't it? And he was fine. So there's not that many changes we can make. And
Costas hasn't been great this season, to be fair.
No, he hasn't.
He's definitely dropped off from what he was last year.
Mm-hmm. But I think we're kind of seeing what he perhaps really is.
Yeah, it's hard though when it's like stop-start. He's coming off the bench in one game and then he'll get the occasional start. It's hard to get any kind of rhythm, but last year he was really impressive. This year he hasn't been shit. He's still had like some decent games, but he was bad in the last match.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't think he's pushing Robbo for a place. I think Robbo was like last year he was, you know. When Robbo didn't play, you didn't feel like there was any significant drop-off. Now I feel like there probably is.
In terms of the leadership on the field as well, perhaps. Like, I think we need Robbo out there at the moment. We need his experience, and we need his fight, and we need his like grit to get us through this tough period. Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off for tonight? I think we've kind of gone into some decent detail on the game. And,
there's nothing springs to mind. I just want to just try and forget about it now. At least we've got a week off where we don't have to worry too much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it felt like this time last year that we couldn't wait for the next game, and now it's like how quickly it changes. But
it's not enjoyable to watch. Do you know the only thing I look forward to about our games is like what's Darwin going to do? I do look forward to watching him. I'm not looking forward to watching our games at the moment, and I really thought I would be after the break. I thought, fresh start, let's get going again. And we've come back and we've just like had a massive shit in the bed, haven't we? And it's like,
I feel like we're worse, if anything, than we were before.
Yeah, it looks that way.
Yeah. Anyway, let's hope for some better times ahead, starting on Saturday against Brighton. I think everybody was feeling a lot better if we had a nice, solid away win against a good team, and we can start building from there. Chelsea the week after, I think it is, at home. They're shit, so I feel like we could do something against them. They're in an equally problematic situation, so let's just get that win under our belt against Brighton next weekend. Look forward to the Chelsea game, and then Real Madrid as well. Like, there are a lot of big games coming up, and the momentum could switch very quickly. And let's just hope that we can summon some stuff within ourselves and rediscover some of the form that we know we're capable of.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
All right. Nice one, man. Okay, well, not what we wanted tonight. There'll be another try in a week or so. Hopefully we can continue the defence of the FA Cup. Dave and the boys will be back after Brighton on Saturday, but until then, we'll catch you soon.